Before time had names, before the first light had ever touched the lands or seas, there was only the void, silent, eternal, endless. Nothing stirred, nothing breathed, and the cosmos had not yet begun its endless dance. From this eternal darkness, the first forces of existence awoke, the Titans. They were colossal, immortal beings, embodiments of raw power, of thought, of creation itself. Mountains, oceans, and storms flowed through their forms, their voices could shake the heavens, and their steps carved valleys and rivers from the barren earth. Among them was Prometheus, the forethinker, the dreamer, the one whose vision pierced far beyond the immediate, beyond the mighty and the immortal. Unlike his fellow Titans, who reveled in strength and dominion, Prometheus gazed downward, toward the empty lands below. There, fragile forms were stirring, humans yet to be fully shaped, trembling in clay and dust. His immortal heart stirred with empathy. Other Titans mocked him, thunderous and cruel. "Why linger on the weak?" they boomed. "Why waste your foresight on beings so fleeting, so insignificant?" Prometheus saw more than weakness. Within those trembling forms, he recognized potential, curiosity, defiance, the spark of imagination. Even in this raw, untamed universe, he sensed destiny. Stars ignited across the endless black, comets streaked like sparks from an unseen forge, and winds carved mountains, rivers, and oceans into existence. Prometheus watched it all, noting every ripple, every shift, every possibility. He foresaw the trials humanity would face, the suffering they would endure, and the courage and hope that could blossom despite it all. Humans lived in darkness, shivering through endless nights, powerless against the forces around them. Prometheus, unable to bear their plight, made a decision. He would act. Under the cloak of night, he ascended to Olympus, past lightning and thunder, toward the sacred flame, the eternal fire of the gods. It radiated divine energy, alive with the power of creation itself. Its heat burned, but Prometheus pressed on, holding the fire with careful reverence, concealing it within a hollow reed. Returning to humanity, he offered them the fire. It was more than warmth, it was knowledge, power, and the spark of imagination. For the first time, humans could cook their food, forge tools, illuminate the darkness, and dream beyond survival. Prometheus watched their faces, bright with awe and wonder, and smiled. He had changed the world forever. But the gods would not forgive such defiance. Zeus, king of Olympus, saw the fire in human hands and raged. Storms tore the heavens, lightning struck mountains, and the earth quaked. Prometheus was seized, dragged to a jagged rock at the edge of the world, and bound with chains of divine iron. Each day, a monstrous eagle descended to feast upon his liver, which regenerated each night to prolong his torment. Yet Prometheus endured, his spirit unbroken, knowing that the gift he gave would outweigh any suffering. Centuries passed. Humanity learned to wield the fire, build cities, forge weapons, and create art. The flame spread in their hearts as well as their hands, carrying with it curiosity, courage, and defiance. Prometheus' gaze remained fixed on them, enduring his torment, witnessing the spark he had given take root and flourish. The fire that Prometheus had brought to humanity blazed like a new sun in the hearts of men. For the first time, they could shape their destiny. They cooked their food, forged tools, built shelters, and discovered the power to illuminate the darkness. Every flicker of flame was a lesson, every spark a whisper of possibility. Prometheus watched in silence, feeling the warmth of pride and hope mingle with the weight of foreknowledge. He knew, as all forethinkers must, that every gift carries a cost. Zeus, observing from Olympus, saw the light of humanity and raged with fury unmatched. Thunder shook the heavens, lightning split the sky, and the winds of divine wrath swept across the earth. How dare they hold the fire of the gods? Zeus bellowed, his voice tearing through mountains and forests. The other gods trembled, some in fear, some in awe, but none dared defy him. Prometheus, though aware of the peril, did not flee. His gaze remained fixed on humanity, whose newfound courage reflected the fire he had given them. Zeus' wrath descended upon him with cruel precision. Chains forged of divine iron bound him to a jagged rock on a cliff at the edge of the world, far from the warmth of fire or sun. His immortality ensured he would endure, yet each day brought new torment. A monstrous eagle, sent by Zeus himself, tore at his liver, the seed of eternal life. Each night, it regrew, a cruel reminder that his suffering would never cease. And yet, Prometheus bore it all, silent in his resolve, refusing to curse mankind or plead for mercy. Pain was constant, but so was purpose. Centuries passed. Humans learned to wield the fire, building cities, cultivating fields, navigating rivers, and creating music and art. Each innovation, each discovery, was a testament to the gift Prometheus had given. Though bound and tormented, he watched them grow, their courage, ingenuity, and defiance blossoming across the centuries. The eagle descended relentlessly, yet his eyes never left the unfolding story of humanity. He saw kings rise and fall, empires crumble, but always the fire endured in the hearts of those willing to dream. In the quiet of his suffering, Prometheus reflected on the nature of freedom and knowledge. The flame he had given was more than light or warmth, it was the seed of awareness, the spark of imagination, the courage to challenge the impossible. He understood that humanity's trials were intertwined with their potential. Every struggle, every moment of despair, was a lesson, a challenge to awaken ingenuity and resilience. Pain was the crucible, and in that fire, humans learned to create, to question, to aspire. Occasionally, the gods would debate his fate. Some whispered that perhaps the Titan had done too much, that the humans should not be elevated. Others admired the foresight and courage of Prometheus, though none dared interfere. Meanwhile, humans, though unaware of the torment of their benefactor, flourished. They discovered agriculture, mastered the art of metallurgy, composed poetry and songs, and began to record stories of heroes and gods. The fire burned brighter, not just in hearths and forges, but in minds and hearts, fueling ambition, creativity, and courage. Prometheus' suffering continued through the ages, yet in his endurance lay a silent triumph. Even in torment, he had changed the world forever. Every act of rebellion, every act of creation, every pursuit of knowledge whispered his legacy across generations. He had defied the gods, yet not for his glory, only for the potential he had seen in humanity. And though his chains bound him, his spirit soared with every invention, every dream, every spark of hope ignited in mortal hearts. Centuries had passed. Empires rose and crumbled, cities of stone and marble reached toward the skies, rivers carried ships laden with the ambitions of men, and the fire that Prometheus had gifted burned in every hearth, every forge, every heart that dared to dream. Yet there he remained, bound to the jagged cliffs at the edge of the world, enduring the daily torment of Zeus' wrath. The monstrous eagle descended without mercy, tearing at his immortal liver, a cruel reminder that defiance of the gods demanded a price far greater than any mortal could imagine. And still, Prometheus endured. Pain had become his shadow, suffering his companion, yet he bore it with steadfast resolve. Though the years were endless, his eyes never strayed from the unfolding story of humanity. He watched them cultivate the land, build cities, compose music, and shape their own destinies. The fire had become more than a gift, it had become a symbol of freedom, of knowledge, of rebellion against fate. Every spark that illuminated a darkened room, every tool forged in the flames, every invention born from curiosity carried a whisper of his defiance. Prometheus saw their triumphs, their failures, their courage, and their flaws, and in each he found reason for hope. Humanity, fragile yet resilient, was growing into the potential he had glimpsed in the clay of their earliest forms. But the torment of the eagle continued, day after day, century after century. Each descent tore at his flesh, each night restored it. Prometheus endured, not for himself, but for the world that had been gifted fire. And in that endurance, in the silent agony, he discovered a strange comfort: though he suffered, humanity thrived. He was the eternal witness to their rise, the unseen hand guiding the spark of civilization. Then came Heracles, the son of Zeus, a mortal hero whose courage and strength were fabled across the lands. Clad in the aura of destiny and wielding weapons tempered by both skill and divine favor, he ascended to the cliff where Prometheus was chained. The eagle shrieked and swooped, talons tearing at the air, but Heracles' arrows flew true, striking down the monstrous beast. Chains of iron, forged by divine will, resisted at first, but the hero's strength and determination shattered them. At last, Prometheus was free. Pain, centuries in the making, was lifted, yet the weight of his choices and sacrifices remained in his heart. Once freed, Prometheus did not flee to Olympus or seek vengeance. His gaze turned to the world below, to the civilization that had grown from the sparks he had given. He saw humans mastering agriculture, building empires, creating art and literature, exploring seas and skies, and asking questions that challenged the very gods themselves. Each act of innovation, each daring endeavor, each rebellion against the ordinary carried within it the essence of his gift, the courage to defy limits, the fire to illuminate the unknown, the spirit to rise above fear. Prometheus reflected on the nature of freedom and knowledge, of suffering and creation. He understood that pain was inseparable from growth, that struggle gave meaning to triumph, that curiosity required the courage to confront danger and uncertainty. The fire he had brought to humanity was more than a tool, it was a living testament to the power of thought, imagination, and defiance. He saw the cycle of history, the rise of civilizations, the fall of tyrants, the endurance of knowledge, the unquenchable curiosity of mortals, and felt a quiet satisfaction. The flame he carried was eternal, not because of him, but because of those who dared to keep it alive. Even the gods could not erase his legacy. Zeus himself, though still mighty and wrathful, could not snuff out the spark Prometheus had given. It had been woven into the hearts and minds of men, and with it, the potential to challenge, to dream, to create, and to aspire. Prometheus' suffering had forged a bridge between the mortal and the divine, a testament that courage and foresight could transcend pain, time, and fear. And so he stood, no longer bound, yet forever entwined with humanity's fate. Every invention, every act of rebellion, every poem, every song, every discovery whispered his story across the ages. He had defied the gods, endured eternal suffering, and gifted the world the most powerful force of all, hope, knowledge, and the courage to defy the impossible. Prometheus, the forethinker, the rebel, the giver of fire, became immortal, not in form, but in spirit. As long as humans dared to dream, to create, and to rise against the limits imposed upon them, Prometheus lived. His chains were broken, his suffering remembered, and his gift eternal. No eagle could take it away, no god could erase it, and no mortal could extinguish the fire that burned in the hearts of those brave enough to reach beyond the ordinary. The story of Prometheus is eternal, a testament to courage, defiance, and the transformative power of foresight. No chain can bind creation, no god can stop imagination, and no force can dim the light of hope. The flame of Prometheus endures, whispering through the ages, illuminating the path for every human who dares to dream.